Philip Board here, host of Financial Fitness with co-host
Mia Medina.
And our guest,
Kurt Mosley.
Well, welcome, Kurt. This week we want to go a little bit further into, well, if you're starting in your practice as an advisor, what do you need to do to get to an office like ours, right? So as a teaching advisor for the broker-dealer that we're affiliated with. So I'm a hybrid. I'm a fiduciary, but I'm also affiliated with a broker-dealer. And they invite me to come and speak. And when I say me, it's Mia and I. We go out and speak on how to build the winning team. So looking back in our history together, Mia, if you were to say what was the first thing that any advisor should do, if they're a solo practitioner, or maybe they're at a wirehouse and thinking about going independent, or maybe they're at a wirehouse already, but they want to grow. What do you think the first thing that they need to do? What's step one?
I would say systems and processes would definitely be the first one. And then after that would be an assistant. But if you have the systems in place, even as little as documenting what you do throughout your day, it's going to allow them to be able to hire that assistant to give that support that they need.
Okay. So an assistant is a pretty broad term, right? Because I know within our office, we've broken it down into different roles. But we didn't start there, right? So a little bit of background on Kurt. Kurt's been in the business for about 14 years now, served a multitude of roles, started in what we call the back office, so working for the broker-dealer, and filled a lot of capacity there. And then after a while has now decided to join us a number of years ago now to be an advisor. So from your perspective, working with a lot of advisors at the broker-dealer level, what do you think the first thing they need to do is?
Yeah, well, everybody has an assistant, whether it's an actual assistant or themselves. If you don't have an assistant, you're serving your own assistant role. So all those things that take so much time, where it's filling out paperwork or whatever, I've seen from the back office advisors who are just solo by themselves, no assistants, versus people like yourselves. And they can only grow so much if they don't have the team in place and have the systems and processes, CRMs, client relationship managers, and document storage, things that are easily, where you can easily go and find documents for your clients versus having to search, go to a file cabinet or something. Having that assistant to do that tedious type of stuff is very important. You're not going to grow if you don't have it.
Agreed. So for those of you that aren't in the business, but you have a great financial advisor you love, and there's plenty of really good financial advisors. So we're not talking about the investment selection here. We're talking about what they do with their day. And I can tell you from being a teaching advisor and also where I started that when I started, I was an actual financial advisor for probably an hour a day. The other 8 to 10 hours a day was other stuff. And whether that's filling out the paperwork that's ready for my next meeting, working on some marketing, or working on a financial plan, and all this stuff behind the scenes, that it's taking away from giving the best possible experience for the client in terms of depth of knowledge. So if you've got an advisor you love out there, maybe turn them onto this podcast and we'll help them get some help, if you will. So, all right, let's break down an assistant, right? In my intro, introducing me, you were hired for data entry.
I was.
And which obviously grew to significantly more than that. And I think data entry anymore is no longer a relevant position. If you were a solo advisor and you're starting your practice, what's your number one hire and what is their job function?
Interesting. I would say operations.
Okay.
But I'm going to take that a little bit step further, since we've been we had a lot of assistants or a lot of roles added throughout the time. I would say someone that obviously that's going to be able to process the paperwork for you, be able to handle all the servicing. But I think what's made like a huge impact in the way we run the business now is having someone in the meetings taking notes. Because I feel that it's the more information the assistant has when they're processing the paperwork, the better. So I think it really goes based on how well the advisor is at making their own notes afterwards, right? And a lot of the times you want the advisor to focus on what they do best and talk to the client, give their recommendations and their input. And having to go back and remember all that stuff to the detail is the hardest part. So I think that one first assistant, needs to handle the paperwork, all the servicing, but being able to be in the meeting, and it also creates a learning curve for the assistant as well.
Yeah, and thank you, Mia. So what she's actually talking about is that I was the weak link in the office, and I was the one who was not making detailed enough notes, and I was forgetting stuff. And I'd remember the big stuff, but after a day full of meetings, going back to what did I promise? Who? That was a really big one. And it also limited the amount of time I could spend with clients on any particular meeting. So yeah, having, now Mia in my meetings, and also she's getting a relationship with the client. So when follow-up is needed, it's certainly something that's really easy to do. So, and I think if you're hiring the first person, if that's going to be their role, then you've got to make sure that you hire someone who is not you. So meaning my detail orientation is not very good. It's just a weak link that I have. You may have terrific detail orientation. And conversely, if I've got a client that's very detail oriented, that's not a good match. They're not going to be happy for very long. Whereas having someone who's very detail oriented work with a client that is detail oriented, then it works out really well that we have this all encompassing. So that was Mia's answer. I'm going to throw you under the bus here, Kurt. What do you think your first hire would be? Would you concur, or are you going to go in a slightly different direction?
I would concur, but I'd also go in a little different direction. First and foremost, having somebody to answer your phone.
Yeah.
If you're answering your own phone, you can get thrown for a loop. You pick up that phone and it's somebody who you know is going to talk to you for an hour. You might be in the middle of something very important for another client. You might be building a proposal, or you're working on a financial plan. You pick up that phone and this client's going to talk to you for an hour or 2 hours or whatever it is. It's not a good use of your time answering your own phone. So having somebody answer those phones, it's very professional, right? Go back to, do you treat it, is this a hobby for you or is this a business?
Good point.
And having that assistant to do what we talked about, but answering the phone first and foremost is important. Then the data entry, making sure paperwork is filled out properly. Advisors, talk about not being detail oriented. You're going to miss things on paperwork and it's going to come back to you to refill. And then you have to go back to the client and get a signature if you miss something or just data's not in right. Having a second set of eyes is very important to make sure things are in good order and processed correctly.
Yeah, excellent. All right, so from the client experience level, I know some of the things that we're able to do now I couldn't do early on in my career because I just didn't have the capacity, right? So what I was focusing on was gathering a new client, investing the money, gathering a new client, investing the money, because that's how we earn our living. But ultimately, what I think all of us need to do for our clients in the financial services world is, and if you're not getting this from your advisor, ask him for it. Do they make sure that your estate plans are up to date? And it's really quite simple. If you've got over $160,000, own a house, or have children, any of those mutually exclusive of each other, that's not all three of those check the box. Any of those boxes, I would highly recommend a trust. I would. And is your advisor just going to say, oh yeah, call this attorney, or are they going to actually guide you through that process? So that's something that we're able to do to make sure that gets done. So I think that's really critical. I think the other thing that we're able to do is work with their CPA, we're looking at their tax returns and saying, okay, what can we do to improve their after-tax income by the investments that we're making for them, right? Which is going to lead into, and we'll do another piece on, what is it, what the different types of accounts are, and maybe some terminology on different investment vehicles so that the viewers here get a really good foundation of what they should expect, and so that they can speak at least part of the language we do. Which leads me to something else. I know a lot of us advisors love to talk about the technical side of the business because we want people to understand how much we know. And quite frankly, the clients don't care. If you're talking about alphas and betas and R squareds and all of this stuff about a particular investment, that's what they want. They want to know that, is it going to take them where they're going to go? So, all right. If you're working with an advisor that's solo, now you brought up somebody working like a hobby. Now, why did you say that?
Being professional in this business is very important. And I've seen a lot of advisors not be as professional as they should be, which you think of, are you sitting down in your advisor's office? Are they the only one there? Is their email match the name of their business, or is it, Joe at something or other?
Like a Gmail.
Like Gmail.
Joe Advisor
right.
at gmail.com.
Being professional for our clients, having, more than one person in the office, catching your advisor when he's not out on the golf course, or is he coming to your house, to meet with you? Maybe he doesn't have an office for you to go in. Maybe he's not a professional.
Yeah. Doesn't mean to say they can't be in the future.
Right, correct.
Maybe they're getting started.
Right.
So what do you think the solution for someone like that would be to give them a leg up?
I would say, well, first, I agree with Kurt, you wouldn't hire just any attorney. So why would you hire just any advisor, right? You want to make sure that they have the credentials and they have the team in place too. I would say probably just simple as starting with getting their own domain and their email. Having a website, I think is key. Everyone always looks everything up on the website now. They don't have a website. How am I supposed to learn about what they do and who they are? Yeah. So I think as basic as it is having their website not be their Facebook. Right. I've seen that before. So even if the things that they don't really think about, but I think if you want to be seen as a professional, even if sometimes people not using your cell phone as a business line, right? If you have a voicemail, making sure your voicemail sounds professional. It doesn't sound like you're calling their cell phone. Yeah. It's the little things that, like Kurt said, you got to think of yourself as you're running a business. Agreed.
So that was a loaded question that I asked you because I already knew the answer. I have my answer, yes. Right? And my answer is, had I met somebody like me early in my career, I think I'd be further ahead. Because, we've set up our business plug and play. An advisor, so if your advisor is out there and he's the one working 80 hours a week doing everything, we actually have a plug and play operation where they can affiliate with our office, our brand. They instantly have website, team in place, all of the processes that we've taken 20 plus years to develop. That we're currently always tweaking, and all the technology that we have as a branch. And what's nice is about the firm we're affiliated with pretty well lets us do whatever technology we like. And having someone be able to plug in, if they're not worried about, I've got to update the website. I need someone to produce the paperwork. Well, for the right advisor, we do all of that. So really, I think I'd be further ahead had I been able to plug into somebody like that early in my career.
Yeah, I think keeping up with the technology that's constantly evolving too. You know, having a team that we know what's new in the industry, how best to get out to your clients. What are your clients looking for? Versus if you don't have a team to help you with that, you got to do it on your own, which takes you out of your role in advising your clients. And you could spend so much time. You can go down many different rabbit holes of everything that's out there. So having, you know, your aptitude to go after certain technologies and try them out and see if it's working, versus if you're out on your own, you're trying those, it might not work, and you might be throwing a lot of dollars at something that's just, quite frankly, not a great fit for your business.
Yeah. Well, and this reminds me of when in March of 2020, when we got the work from home order. I know a lot of advisors went on vacation. They just stopped working. Or if they were in a wirehouse, they had to work from home and they were the assistant. Our prep time to get ready for working from home was 20 minutes. And what it involved was that each employee needed to download our phone app onto their personal phone so that their extensions worked and they're all part of the group. And we already had everything in place. All we had to do was go home and work. So our downtime was, when I say insignificant, it was not even noticeable from anyone from the outside. And everybody worked from home for a year, and we got good at Zoom, which is great. But I prefer an in-person meeting. I enjoy that, the personal interaction better. But having that in place, and I know a lot of advisors struggled with that. And technology is key, and having access to good technology. So we've actually been scanning documents for now 20 years. So we have this online document storage system that we own. By itself, it's not FINRA approved, but it makes things, to your point earlier, Kurt, where having access to documents really quickly at everyone's notice. You will never hear anyone in our office go, "Does anyone have the Smith file?" Because we all have it. Everything is scanned and uploaded. And now, about 2 years ago, we were able to go completely paperless, and we don't even have filing cabinets in our office anymore, which is fantastic because I always severely disliked them. So, all right, technology. What do you think the client experience is like for people to work with us? Who wants to go with that one?
I could start off. I think we make it very easy for them, very seamlessly. We do DocuSign now, right? So I think it's as open as they are, I think, to the technology seems to work better, right? Older clients that, might not be as comfortable with computers, then, we go back old school paper. But I think just being able to assist them and help them on any of their needs, right? And like you said, even if it's one of those days you have to work from home, still being able to take care of the client is, I think, what's key. And being able to send them copies of their documents if they need to. Just we have their electronic filing cabinets, so it's simple. We don't have to worry about how to mailing them out. We could just send it via secure email. So I think that seems to be working really well. Yeah,
indeed. Kurt?
I think having the ability to do what's comfortable for the client is the most important thing. A lot of clients aren't comfortable with DocuSign or signing something on the computer. So having the ability, to print out physical paperwork for them to read through, whether they want to read through a prospectus, getting the whole prospectus done, but just coming in and signing it or sending the actual paperwork, to sign with an actual pen, and then it coming back to us, but then getting processed where we can all find it. A lot of clients, we have some clients who don't even have an email address, which makes things a little more difficult in our business. But we have the ability to to work with that client if that's what they want. Maybe they want their statements, mailed to them versus getting them in an email where they can't find it, or being able to log into their accounts. You can do that if that's your preference. If not, we can get you statements.
I think what makes a big difference, I don't think clients realize it, but it does add that client experience, is the communication that we're able to have between each other when we're working on a case and trying to get information to the client. Us having the technology in place makes our communication with each other easier. Therefore, the client gets the answer faster rather than, let me call you back and like 2-3 days later. So I feel like the internal technology that we have allows us to give that better client experience that they might not be aware of, that, that's what's happening.
Yeah, I think that too, sorry to interrupt, but having multiple roles that we all play in the office, each one of us has, more specialized knowledge in certain areas, whether it's on the insurance or the estate planning side of things, myself, Medicare, property and casualty insurance versus, if you're just out there on your own, having to make a phone call, go find it versus, you guys in the office, you come to me and ask me a question on that, or I, go to Philip and ask Philip a question or Mia a question. Having a team in place that is a lot faster to get back to clients. Maybe you don't have to call them back. You just say, hey, hang on for a second. Let me get that answer.
Yeah.
Versus
it is true.
God forbid, you give somebody wrong information and, just because you think
Yeah. When I think about the client experience, it's like from the moment they call in or referred in, I get a lot of referrals from CPAs. So, and those often come by email. So the first thing that happens is that I reply to the referral via email and introduce other team members, specifically Rachel, who makes the calls and runs our calendars for us. And her job is to work with the prospect, the referral, and find out when is the best time to get on the calendar that suits them. So we're proactive in that. Once that's set up, day before, we send out a text, by we, I mean Rachel, to confirm the meeting. And if that needs to be a change, she'll handle it. Again, it's not the advisor team that's handling the calendar. It's someone that's dedicated to do that. And which makes, just like when you call your dentist isn't managing your calendar. So we have that in place. So that's something that clients are used to, and I think they expect from a professional organization. The next part is when they come into the office, let's go with come in the office, they're greeted by somebody that already knows their name because we're expecting them. So instead of like, I'm sorry, who are you here to see? It's Mr. Jones, welcome. Can I get you something to drink? And we actually make a note of what that is so that the client, when they come back, we say, last time I saw you had green tea. Would you like green tea again or something different? And, it's that touch that really makes them feel like, okay, these people are getting me, right? They're taken into our conference room where we sit down and we have, a detailed conversation. We get people, we want them to be comfortable with us. It's a two-way street. If I'm not comfortable with you, I don't care how much money you have, we're not a good fit. We have to be comfortable with each other. So there's that getting to know each other phase. And then of course, the follow-up meeting after that to present solutions or findings, or perhaps in the interim, they've decided, yes, we would like to take the next step. Well, we'd like to see a tax return. Let's take a look at that. Can you get us a copy of it? So who follows up on that, right? Whether it's me or Rachel or Kurt or whoever, somebody is following up on that. After they decide to move forward, now they're introduced to the team that handles the paperwork so that they know that they'll be hearing and saying, oh, by the way, we've submitted your paperwork today. The transfer is in process. Oh, by the way, your money transferred today. So that they're handheld the whole way. So being in an organization where we've been able to grow to the degree that we are, we now have all this stuff in place that makes it better for the advisor, better for the client, not necessarily in that order, but it's a more seamless experience. And also if, for instance, and everybody gets unwell from time to time and you miss some days, if your advisor works by themselves, they don't get days off, which often leads to a little bit more sickness, but just because of the stress level. I do know that we're able to cover each other when on the rare occasions that happens, or we've got kids. Hey, I'm going to my daughter's promotion next week, which okay, great, the office will be fine. So I think that the client experience is something that's really driven home by our systems and processes. What are your thoughts about what if something worse happens? Do you have any thoughts on, I guess, succession planning?
I have a lot of thoughts on it. When I was working at the back office, we encountered that more often than I would like. Things happen in life, and a lot of advisors don't have a succession plan for themselves. They're so focused on making sure our clients are taken care of. Who's going to take over on as far as estate planning. Who's your executor, and financial powers of attorney. Something happens to your advisor, and you don't have that succession plan. It's a scramble to make things happen, or you as a client might just get lost. So the advisors having somebody to take over for their clients, is very important to have. Our office is there's multiple layers if anything were to happen to us. Any of us, you and me, something were to happen, we're able to pick up, with some assistance. Obviously, you're going to need some help. But financially, is the business going to be able to run? Do you have key man insurance on, the important people in the business?
Yeah.
There's a lot of things to think about as far as succession planning goes. And eventually, the one thing we're all going to do is get older every single day.
Yeah.
And, there's a natural point, I think, for an advisor. It makes sense for you not to be an advisor anymore. You're not able to really work with your client the way you should, keeping up with technology and being able to continue those relationships with the next generation, and then the next generation beyond that. Having layers, having that succession plan is very important.
You bring up a good point, Kurt. I knew this advisor in our building for, a decade or more. And at one point, we were at the same firm, and that particular firm had a policy that if you didn't have a signed succession plan, if you were to die or become incapacitated, that firm would send out a letter to your client saying, Joe is no longer with us, choose one of these, which means everything that advisor worked for pretty well dissipated overnight, which means his family got nothing. We're talking zero. So I learned that early on. I've always had succession plan. I mean, Mia and I have been working together for 22 years now. And so obviously a natural place. Kurt's integral in making sure that happens. So multiple people in our office have relationships with all of our clients, because that's what's going to keep the client happy. And what's funny though, Mia talked about having an assistant in the meeting, and I'm now 57 years old at the time of recording, and so when Mia comes into the meetings with me, first thing clients look at it and go, "Is something happening? Are you retiring?" So you got to make sure that you address that, and the answer is no, I'm not. But I think succession plan key, but systems and processes help with that. And being affiliated with a firm where you're able to do the business you want in a way that you want, and still make sure that your family's going to be taken care of if something happens to you. So great point on succession planning. I know we've taken over now several books from advisors, and I have a goal to not take any new clients for me personally past age 65. And I say that now, so we'll see if I end up eating those words, because I do love what I'm doing. But not taking new clients, and therefore empowering those around me to have the knowledge and experience to make sure that there's a seamless event for not just my clients, but their children, their families as well. I think that's, now I'll still be involved. And if you come to me with a high net worth problem, yeah, I'll consult, but I'm not going to be the one taking that new client. I think that's something that we as advisors need to be better at. Because, I mean, we had to fire an advisor because he got so, unfortunately, a wonderful man, but technology got the better of him and the bad guys got in. And he's no longer with the firm. So there's that as well. So, and he was in his 80s when that happened. So as much as we're talking about the running of the business, for those of you out there that are retail or are looking for an advisor, these are some of the things you want to think of. And if you've got an advisor you love, by all means, have him reach out to him reach out to us and see if we can help make their lives better. So with that, I want to thank Kurt and Mia for joining me today. Who knows? Maybe we'll end up working together. But thank you for tuning in.
Thank you for joining us at Financial Fitness with Mia Medina.
And Philip Board.
I hope you found the topics interesting and hope to see you next time.
Terrific. And if you've got any questions, they can always hit the website, www.oneononefinancial.com, or hit the links below.